What's up again, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film Rebirth, number 16. The film we're reviewing today is The Silence of the Lambs from 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme. My overall score here for this film is a 5 out of 5. Now, the question is simple. Why? Right? What makes this film worthy of the highest possible score? Well, for me, The Silence of the Lambs represents what happens when virtually every major filmmaking department operates at an elite level simultaneously. The writing is exceptional, the performances are unforgettable, the direction is masterful, and every technical element serves the story with remarkable precision. It's not a perfect film, but no film is perfect. But it is one of those rare movies where there simply aren't any significant weaknesses pulling the experience down at all. So let's break down why that is. The first major strength of this film is its screenplay. This is one of the most efficient scripts I've personally ever encountered. The film works simultaneously as a serial killer investigation, a psychological thriller, a character study, and an exploration of trauma. And yet, it never feels crowded or unfocused. Every scene serves a purpose. Every conversation either advances the investigation, develops character, deepens the themes, or increases suspense. There's very little wasted material here, and that's great screenwriting. The screenplay also understands that suspense comes from controlling information. The audience is always given just enough to stay engaged while never being allowed to feel completely comfortable. That balance keeps the film gripping from beginning to end. The next major strength is the character of Clarice Starling. I genuinely believe Clarice is one of the greatest female protagonists in film history, and what makes her so compelling is how human she feels. She's intelligent, but not infallible. She's courageous, but not fearless. She's determined, but never unrealistic. The film never turns her into an action hero. She succeeds through intelligence, persistence, observation, and good old hard work. Throughout the story, she's constantly underestimated and frequently placed at a disadvantage, and yet she continues moving forward. Her journey isn't simply about solving a case, it's about proving herself, confronting her past, and growing into confidence in her own abilities. That emotional foundation gives the film far more weight than a typical thriller. Then we have Hannibal Lecter. There are few characters in cinema as fascinating as Lecter. What makes him memorable isn't simply that he's dangerous, it's that he's brilliant. He understands people. He sees through people. He recognizes fears, weaknesses, and motivations almost instantly. Every scene involving Lecter feels like a psychological chess match, particularly his conversations with Clarice. The tension doesn't come from physical conflict. It comes from watching two intelligent people engage in a battle of minds. And of course, Anthony Hopkins is absolutely brilliant in his performance. What makes his performance so effective is his control. He's calm, polite, measured, calculated, yet yet every word feels dangerous. Rather than relying on explosive moments, Hopkins creates menace through intelligence, confidence, presence, and stillness. The result is one of the most captivating performances ever put on screen. But The Silence of the Lambs isn't built on just one great performance. It's actually built around three. Jodie Foster is also outstanding as Clarice. She carries the emotional core of the film and makes every moment feel authentic. You believe her fear, her determination, her vulnerability, and her growth. And without Foster's performance, the audience simply wouldn't be as invested in the story. And then there's Ted Levine as Buffalo Bill. I personally think Levine's contribution is sometimes overlooked because Hopkins receives so much attention, but make no mistake, Buffalo Bill is absolutely essential to why this film works, and Ted Levine's performance of Buffalo Bill is part of that. Levine makes the character deeply unsettling because he feels real. He doesn't play Buffalo Bill like a movie monster. He plays him like a damaged human being capable of horrific actions. That realism makes him genuinely frightening. While Lecter provides intellectual tension, Buffalo Bill provides physical danger. He is the immediate threat hanging over the entire story, and Levine's performance is a huge reason the climax is so effective. Speaking of suspense, Jonathan Demme's direction is absolutely exceptional. One of the things I personally admire about his work here is his restraint. Many directors would have relied heavily on graphic violence and shock value, but Demme understands that anticipation is often more powerful than explicit imagery. The film constantly builds dread rather than simply delivering scares to the audience. He also uses framing in fascinating ways. Characters frequently appear to look directly into the camera, creating an unusual sense of intimacy and discomfort. Instead of simply watching conversations, we feel drawn into them. And the cinematography works beautifully alongside this approach. The visual storytelling constantly reinforces Clarice's perspective. She's often framed as isolated, vulnerable, or surrounded by imposing figures. The film communicates her emotional experience visually without ever drawing attention to itself. It's subtle, but incredibly effective, and that's great cinematography. The editing is equally strong here. At just under 2 hours, the pacing is remarkably tight. The story never drags, never feels rushed, and always seems to reveal information at exactly the right moment. Every scene pushes the narrative forward. Every reveal lands with precision. That's a huge reason why the film remains so engaging throughout its entire runtime. Also, the sound and score deserve some credit as well. Howard Shore's score is excellent, but what stands out even more is the film's use of silence. Many thrillers use music to tell the audience when to be afraid. This film often relies on stillness, breathing, environmental sounds, and empty space. And the result is an atmosphere that feels genuinely tense and unsettling. And finally, we come to the thematic depth of the film. Because beneath the murder investigation and psychological games, The Silence of the Lambs is ultimately a story about trauma. Clarice isn't simply trying to catch a killer. She's trying to silence something within herself. The reoccurring image of the lambs becomes a powerful metaphor for helplessness, guilt, and the desire to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That emotional depth is what elevates the film beyond being merely a great thriller. It gives the story lasting meaning and provides an emotional core that stays with you long after the film is over. So ultimately, what makes The Silence of the Lambs a 5-star film is the consistency of its excellence. And that's why Silence of the Lambs earns the 5-star rating from me. But what about you? What are your thoughts on this film? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hope you guys enjoy this review. And until next time, kick it and rock on.